Welcome to the RadioU Podcast. Coming up, which dating show would actually be the best to find true love?
Also, Bill Nye has given us his World Series prediction for 2025, and it's not who you think.
All that and more on the way next. One thing that goes hand in hand with Valentine's Day is sweethearts. Those are the original conversation hearts.
Yep.
And every year now, because their candy tastes like garbage, they have to do other things to try to get themselves, like, to remind you of them and be like, well, you may not want to buy us to give to somebody to eat, but at least we'll like have something funny on them.
Yeah.
This year, they claim that Americans are moving past situationships. That's not what we want anymore.
Okay.
We want something more serious. And so sweetheart candies this year have decided to lean into commitment.
Ah.
And so now you would get sweethearts that say, move in, ? Or marry me. You're going to propose to somebody with a sweetheart. Also forever, ever, ? And not only do they say these, more long-term commitment type of phrases, also, if you can literally use your phone to scan with AI technology, they will scan these sweethearts candies. And then if you scan one that says move in, it will literally link you to a website where you could book a moving company and stuff, and stuff like that. So you can, they're like helping you take that next step,
right,
of actually taking the next step.
Yeah. The actual commitment level. Wow. That's impressive that they're able to do that with the technology now. Mm-hmm. And I do like the idea of like people moving past situationships. Mm-hmm. Situationships are no good. Everyone's just in limbo at that point. You don't know.
Who wants that?
So more commitment is a good thing. But yeah, I think my favorite part is the one that's the forever ever one with the question mark. Uh-huh. That one takes you to a place where you can purchase heart-shaped headstones.
Oh my gosh. Well, nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. Maybe they're saying that the sweetheart candy are so bad they will kill you. Is what I'm thinking. All this money they probably spent on this. They're using AI to come up with this. You think they would just spend that money on making their candy taste like an actual candy? Instead of like you're eating wrong Tums. Why haven't they, in all their meetings that they certainly had, they had all these probably like Gen Z, like the youngest
focus groups.
What can we do to be cool, guys? And nobody spoke up and said, maybe make your candy taste good. Like, I'm looking at these Reese's shaped like hearts. And I'm looking at Dove, and I'm looking at Ferrero Rocher, and then I see you, the sweetheart candies, and you think I'm going to choose you.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. I'm not picking it.
I think it's more, honestly, like if someone's buying this, they're more using it for a decoration than to actually eat it.
They're not meant to. They're meant to, like, line the ground of your fish tank.
Oh, your fish tank.
Yeah, your fish tank. If you want the fish to have some festive little look in there. That's what these are for, not for actual eating at all or giving to someone you love.
I don't know if it's that bad, but yeah, I would probably choose Reese's or Dove over the sweethearts.
Amazing how far we've come, how our standards have improved.
Yeah.
And yet somehow how this company is able to stay in business.
Well, they're doing fun things like this.
Yeah.
So for apparently at least one time per year.
Yeah, that's right. How do they even like sustain themselves? Because no one's buying barely anybody's probably buying on Valentine's Day. Forget about in April. I don't know how they do it.
I mean, I'm sure if you have children, they probably eat this because kids eat any candy.
They will eat. I don't know. I think you're underestimating kids nowadays.
Maybe I am.
If this was the first candy you ever gave them, maybe. But once they've had Sour Patch Kids, then they would be like, this tastes, what happened to those? What happened to the Sour Patch Kids? Ma?
Right.
Why are you giving me sweethearts? These are horrible. Why are you giving me vitamin? Why do these taste like, I think you mixed things up. I think this is for heart medication. I don't want to keep dwelling on this, but the sweethearts versus like Reese's thing it did remind me of something.
Okay.
Literally, when Sweethearts came out, right? They're made by one of the oldest candy companies in the country.
Yeah.
So when they came out, they really were one of the only options for candy.
Yep.
We didn't have any better standards, and so people at the time thought that Sweethearts were better, right?
Sure.
And now, but it only took a few people dreaming, a few people realizing we can do better than this. And now a candy industry is filled with so many candies that are borderline addicting because they're so good.
Yes.
The Reese's and the cookies and cream, Hershey's and Twix, and the list goes on.
Yeah. They're everything under the sun.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
It only takes a few people saying that we can do better, and there's probably some people maybe at the Sweethearts company, they're like, no, this is the best we can do. This is as good as it gets. And then it just takes one person going, yeah, but I think we can do better, and then better things happen. And that's not just with candy. You think about space travel. You go back 100 years ago, nobody would have even thought about space travel.
Yeah.
And then a few people are like, but what if we could? And then a few people more. Like, we were barely flying 100 years ago.
Right.
And look how far we've come. And and now AI and it only takes a few people to go, this is something that's possible.
Right.
And, but most of us are we're very limited in our thinking.
Yeah.
We only have, this is just the way it is. And for our lifetime, this is how it'll be. And then, you'll be 60 and you'll be like, wow, I didn't think this was all possible. And here we are. Yeah. I think that's a flaw in many of us. And I think that obviously the most successful people are the people that are able to come up with ideas that are like nobody else would think of.
Right.
They don't want to put limits. Somebody would say, well, this is a thing, but we'll never be able to do it. And they say, well, yeah, we could. And okay. So all this to say, I think it's a flaw in our thinking that we put limits on the ways to solve our problems. We put limits on what we think is actually possible. And that's obviously a huge issue when it comes to God. Mm-hmm. Because with God, there's so much more that is possible. We have, if you've got a problem in your life, you're thinking, well, the realistic way for this to be solved is like this thing. And I can't do that thing. But you don't know, there's so many more other avenues that God could employ that you have no idea about. And you're just limiting. You're like, well, this is what God can do. No, God can do way more than you think.
Absolutely. There is no limit to God. And so there's no reason why you need to put any limitations on him for sure. But yeah, I would say, if you're facing a big decision in your life or something where you think this is the only option, that is the perfect time to pray to God and be like, what am I not seeing here? Because I know there's things I'm not seeing.
Right.
And, so to allow yourself that ability to have that conversation with him and for him to really, show a plan to you instead of going with the plan that you think is best.
Yeah.
That is the way to go.
I feel like a lot of times our plans are kind of in a way just instinct too.
Yeah.
It's just what naturally feels like it makes sense at first, but that's not always the best way to do things.
Right.
Because a lot of times our instincts are really, really horrible.
Yeah.
But the good news is that God's aren't, and that God has no limits. And so again, don't put constraints on what you think, on a problem that you have or whatever, thinking this is the only way to get out of it. Jesus is ready to help you with problems and to help you succeed and find other great things in life. God is there for all of that. He wants to be with you every day and show you that, that unfortunately many of our thoughts are very limited. But the good news is we'll look back and go, wow, I didn't think that was possible. But with God, it was.
Right.
You want to know more about that? Start talking to Jesus. Let him into your life. Let him show you what he can do. And go to radiou.com/free gift. Allie, I'm upset.
Okay.
I'm upset at just reading this. I know you know the answer, but check this out. Obviously, court storming, field storming, rushing the field. It always raises its head, I feel, at this time of year once NFL football ends. And there's the biggest thing going on is kind of college basketball, where you see court storming. It feels like every weekend. Sometimes it does get a little out of hand. But then there's all these solutions that come up with how to end it, which I don't want. But listen to this one SEC athletic director and see if you can guess which school this athletic director might be from. That said, quote, I truly believe if we said that the home team, if they storm the field or the court, they're going to lose that game right then and there, that will stop it.
Oh.
Which AD would say that?
I mean, I know the answer.
Yeah, it's not Missouri. It's not Vanderbilt. It's the Alabama athletic director Greg Byrne said that he thinks, if you make the home team forfeit if they storm the court, that would end it. Well, I'm sure you would like that, Alabama, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty
Since you're like the only team in the SEC that ever is on the road and gets the field stormed.
Right. I think, they are still pretty bitter about that loss to Vanderbilt last season, clearly. And they want to try and do whatever they can to stop this. But like you said, he's from the SEC, Alabama, and the SEC, and the SEC has been very egregiously aggressive with these rules against court and field storming. We talked not too long about the Vanderbilt, I think it was athletic director, going around and begging students not to storm the court because they were going to get a third fine. And it obviously didn't work. The fans stormed the court after they won a big basketball game. I think it was against Kentucky or something.
Yeah.
And so they had to pay like $500,000 to Kentucky.
I think Vanderbilt had stormed the court 2 weekends in a row, which is kind of out of control.
Yeah, that's true. They had beat like Tennessee and then they beat Kentucky. So yeah, that was getting a little out of hand. But yeah, the SEC has been very aggressive with these rules that they've put in place, causing these schools to have to pay, which just is awful because it's like you're punishing the wrong people in this situation. You're punishing the student athletes. You're punishing the program by making them pay this fee. They're not the ones storming the courts.
Yeah.
Like, that's not who should be paying for this. I know it's impossible to try and charge fans.
You
but
know what they should do is that Vanderbilt just shouldn't win games. If they just stopped beating Alabama and Kentucky and Tennessee, they wouldn't have this problem.
No.
And then those teams could be in the playoff and it would not be a big deal.
No.
So
they just need to
everybody would be happy.
They just need to take away these sure. They just need to take away these stupid rules with these stupid fines because they're ridiculous, and definitely don't even think about adding a forfeit because your conference, you have said for years, your conference, it means more, it's better, blah, 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 blah. We're so much tougher in the SEC. You don't look so tough now. When
you look like a bunch of big babies.
Yeah, you're just crying over people storming the field because they beat you, and now you're like, you shouldn't be able to win this game. You should have to forfeit, blah, blah, blah. You're not so tough now, SEC.
And keep this in mind if you think, well, you know what? I truly believe that if we made the home team lose and forfeit the game if they storm the field, then we'd stop it from happening. Yeah, and then you'd start people rioting instead.
Right.
Because Alabama would lose to Vanderbilt, and then the students would rise up and be like, no, we won the game.
Yeah.
And even worse things would happen.
Yeah,
it's
that would
dumb.
Chaos.
Just let them rush the field. Do what Duke did this weekend. Get your players off the court of the field as soon as you can. Like, do it safely.
Yep.
Don't have them out there like Caitlin Clark elbowing people. And everything's fine. I say that it's gone on for longer than you and I have been alive. People storm the court.
Yeah.
And it's only recently that it's been an issue, and it's because the players and the big programs are being annoying about it.
Yeah, they're being babies.
But United Airlines is making some positive headlines because they're bringing back a snack that a lot of travelers have missed. Have you ever had a Stroopwafel?
I haven't.
Really?
No.
Stroopwafels are amazing.
Yeah, I've not heard of this.
They're really good. They're especially, to me, good with coffee, which obviously wouldn't appeal to you. And Stroopwafels can be a little different, but it's like a pretty thin cookie.
Okay.
It's almost like a wafery kind of thing.
Okay.
But then in between, you'll get like a really sweet, like, caramel or honey or like some kind of sticky substance. I honestly don't even know. Okay. And then there's another wafer on the other side. So like really what it's like
a little sandwich.
It's a sandwich, and it's basically the cookie part is basically just so that your hands don't get too sticky while you eat the good stuff that's in the middle. Because it's so the outside is so thin.
Yeah.
And it just gives it a little structure. But these were something that were very popular on United flights for a while. Then mysteriously they disappeared without explanation. But now United has said they're bringing them back complimentary on flights over 300 miles.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you've ever had one, let Allie know at 8772 Radio U. That stroopwafels are amazing, and whether you drink coffee or not.
Right. Tell me how I'm missing out on the stroopwafel. I will say I didn't fly United a whole lot. My family, I mean, we flew a lot for sure. But we'd fly, if ever we were flying like an American airline service, it would always be American or Delta.
What kind of snacks did they give out?
All sorts of different stuff. I will say, out of everybody with the food, I felt like American was the best.
Okay.
As far as like actual meals that you wanted to eat, which is never on an airplane.
Yeah.
I have never been like that. I'm
Not
always
an economy.
I'm always starving once I leave the airplane. But that's also because we're flying like British Airways and they feed you very weird food.
Yeah, probably bangers and mash or something.
Yeah, stuff that you're like, what's this? But American Airlines, they were like, here's pizza and here's some grapes. And I'm like, okay, let's go. So I always felt like American had the best food.
I feel like I've flown a decent amount for how old I am.
Okay.
But I've hardly ever flown on any flights where they actually give you a meal.
Yeah.
It's always, first of all, even like as long as I've been alive, most of the time I've flown on one of the cheaper airlines. And then it's, for some reason, flight's not long enough where they give you the food.
Yeah.
So the only thing they would give you is the complimentary whatever.
Right.
And so that's very important to me. And I feel like, so one of them, I think Delta does the Biscoffs, which they've taken away and brought back. Well, you've had those, right?
Yes.
Biscoffs, obviously amazing.
Very good.
Also much better with coffee. Obviously, peanuts were the thing for a long time. And then I think it's Southwest and many others copied this because, of course, peanuts fell out of favor.
Yeah.
And so instead they would do pretzels.
Yep.
Hard pretzels, which is the worst.
Well,
I'd rather you give me nothing.
Well, I'm okay with the pretzels, but I would prefer them to not be like plain pretzels and rather like pub pretzels. So they have like some type of seasoning on them.
Yeah, sure.
To make them a little less like, I feel like, I don't know if it makes it less dry, but just because you're already so dry on a plane, up in the air, especially if you've been flying for a long time. And flying from Africa, you're flying for like 36 hours.
Yeah.
So you're already so like dehydrated. It's like the last thing I want is pretzels right now.
I feel like they do that intentionally to try to get you to buy something to drink.
Well,
because they give like some stuff, right?
Well,
but I feel like they're trying to make you, these pretzels are making me thirsty, I think is what they're trying to do.
I don't know if I've never been on a plane where you had to buy drinks. Drinks were always complimentary, but yeah, I agree. I think the pretzels, they can be good, but it's like a little odd in airplane travel. But also pretzels can be a good travel snack because they don't leave a lot of residue most of the time. So
they're clean.
Yeah.
They're just not fun at all. They're like for kindergartners.
No. Well, Hudson, the nightmare might finally be coming to an end, at least a month from now. And that is the two Boeing astronauts that have been stranded on the ISS since June of last year. Crazy to think about that. Almost a year now. So yeah, they might actually finally be coming home, and a tad bit earlier. I say a tad because it's really not that much earlier than what they had originally said, or not originally said, but what they recently said.
They originally said they'd be there like a week, right?
They originally said it was just like 11 days or something like that.
It was basically supposed to be the space equivalent of the Simpsons meme where Grandpa Simpson walks in and turns around and walks right out.
Yeah, exactly. It was supposed to be real quick, and obviously they have been there since June, so not quick at all. But NASA's last announcement was that they were going to be using a SpaceX Crew 10 mission to get them. And that mission had been delayed until late March because they needed to finish processing a new Dragon spacecraft for the mission. Well, they have made another announcement now saying that actually they are going to be able to try and get them with a launch of another SpaceX I don't even know what it's called. I can't remember. A Dragon capsule that has already flown to the International Space Station, and they can get that launched as early as March 12th.
Okay.
So things might be moving in the right direction.
I feel like I wouldn't be proclaiming this too loudly if I was them, because I don't want to get these astronauts' hopes up.
Yeah.
After they've been stranded in space, and somehow they're still alive, miraculously. They've been stranded in space for almost a year, but you don't want to give them some false hope, you know?
Yeah.
What was that? Wasn't there it was in the Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. Where there's a bomb about to go off, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's like this is a long thing.
I'm trying to hold on. I'm trying to wait.
It's in The Dark Knight Rises, and there's a bomb about to go off, and he's like, let's go over here. Everybody get to safety. And one of the other guys is like, they'll never survive this. And he's like, you think they need to hear that right now? Let them die with hope is basically what he says.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's almost like what we're like, if you're starting to tell the astronauts, like, we might bring you back. Could be good news, or it could be like, let's let them have some happiness before they run out of oxygen or whatever happens up there.
No, I don't think they're going to run out of oxygen. But
I mean, I hope not. I'm just upset that they've been up there so long.
It really has been ridiculous. It's felt like they've been abandoned for sure. At least that's what President Donald Trump claimed as he posted on, I think, Truth Social, which is the one that he posts on a lot now, not too long ago, where he was like, he's working on it and asking Elon Musk to get a spacecraft up there as soon as possible because these astronauts have been abandoned and we need to get this fixed and whatnot. And the astronauts they're like, we're actually fine with it. We're having a great time up here. So,
well, their lives here must suck.
I know. I was like, I feel like you're missing out on a lot that's going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, if your whole life was meant, or like you've been working to be in space as an astronaut and you end up with a few extra months up there, I guess it's more than a few, but if you end up with more time there than what you anticipated, I guess it's not the worst thing.
Why didn't they just say that before they went then? Why didn't they just say, so that all of us didn't have to be down here like worried about them?
Freaking out.
Yeah. Why didn't they just say like, hey, you can just leave us for a while, like we'll make it work.
I mean, I think they have said that, but we still are just kind of like, get him out of there.
Yeah.
Go get him.
Also, maybe they've just forgotten how good like gravity is.
Right.
And, like real food.
Well, and that's at this point, that's what you need to start worrying about, because the body cannot take being up there that long. I don't know what the record is, but it's not extremely long amount of time where you do start to see atrophy and different effects of, things without your body being, having no gravity used against it. And so I know that NASA has a lot of things that they try and make the astronauts do, like workouts and whatnot when they're up on the ISS, so that it doesn't affect them as much. But still, yeah, you do need to start thinking about that, where it's like, how long is too long? You know?
It's crazy. It is like, if it was me, I would have already gone full like Sandra Bullock in Gravity at this point. Obviously, that wasn't intentional for her to get stranded out there, but like she found a way back.
She did.
In that movie that's not real life. But that's what I would be doing. I'd be like, just let me figure something out. I'm hopping out of here. Sandra could do it, so can I. And by the way, when I get back to Earth, I'm suing because this is ridiculous. All right. First to worst, Allie and I each choose our first choice for a given topic and then the worst choice for that given topic. You decide which of us you agree with more, and also let us know which choices we might have missed. Today's topic is dating shows to find love. It's not the best to watch. It's if we were looking for love, what would be the best show to try to find somebody, I guess, to marry?
Yeah.
I think I should get to go first because you got to go first last time, first of all.
Okay.
So, all right.
I'm excited to hear yours.
I don't have as much experience with dating shows either. I don't watch as many.
Okay.
But I have a firm belief on what is the first choice. And that is The Bachelor. The Bachelor for me, I wouldn't want to go on The Bachelorette as one of the 30 guys. But for The Bachelor and for The Bachelorette, for that individual, you've got like 30 beautiful people, and they're all competing because they all think they love you. And sure, some of the 30 may fall out of love with you very quickly, But at least one of the 30 odds are, right?
I mean, you would think your odds are pretty high, although I would argue there's a lack of successful couples from that show.
I think there's a lack of successful couples on every show.
Fair enough.
But I think The Bachelor, if it was me, I think I would be the most likely to make that work.
Okay.
Now, again, from the contestant perspective, possibly could be the worst because you're competing with 30 people instead of just other shows where you go on one-on-one dates.
Right. Your odds aren't very good.
But I think, I mean, again, if you're on The Bachelor and you can't make it work with one of those 30 people or however many it is, then that's on you. Like, you failed. You probably don't deserve somebody. And then my worst choice is going to be, this is kind of like almost, I feel like it doesn't count, but The Circle is a show on Netflix that I've never watched personally, but I've overheard other people watching. And the premise is like, you're in a building and you're not allowed to really interact with everybody else except through online. And so you might be real, or you might be fake. It's like an app. And then you all rate each other and whatever. And they could be the opposite gender. They could be the opposite age of what you think they are. And you just have no idea. But some people like go on dates from that and whatever. It's stupid. It's dumb. And that would be a horrible, it's not really meant, I don't think, to find love necessarily, but it doesn't mean that that's not kind of part of it, and it would be a horrible way to find love.
Yeah.
Sure. So that's my choice.
Okay. All right. I feel like those are good choices. Now, for mine, I think the best show to find love on, and I'm using the stat of the most amount of couples, like, that have actually succeeded outside of the show.
Okay.
And it's not just like, fabricated or whatever.
Statistically.
Yeah. So they're actually producing successful couples that end up getting married, maybe even end up having a family and all of that. And that is Farmer Wants a Wife.
Oh my gosh.
And that show originally started in Australia. It does have a US version now. But I'm talking more about the Australian one because I watched that one way before the US started.
Yeah.
And they have had a successful couple, and like they only do like 3 farmers per season or whatever, but they've had a successful couple from like each season.
Oh my
and that's
God.
pretty good
for
a dating show.
What is the format? Is that one farmer and then
one farmer and then and then about like 5 women that they'll have little mini dates with them, and then they'll choose which ones to bring back to their farm.
The only thing The Bachelor is missing is that he's not a farmer.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he would be successful.
But I do feel like overall it's more wholesome in its aspect, where it's like you're actually seeing them in their environment and kind of seeing them more in real life versus like some Hollywood date where you're like on the Golden Gate bridge or whatever, like you're just like doing these insane dates like what The Bachelor does. It's very unrealistic to what real life looks like.
Sure.
It's for TV. So I feel like it's probably one of the more wholesome reality TV show dating shows. So I think that's why it has more success. Now, for my worst, I think, and even though there's a technically even amount of males and females on the show, so you would think the odds are better for you to find love.
Yeah.
I think this one is the worst, and it's Love Island.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the reason it's the worst is because they get the worst people to be on the
That's
show.
part of it. That is definitely part of it.
It's like, yeah, they may look good, but they have absolutely zero idea how to have a healthy relationship. All they know is about toxicity and gossip and whatnot,
backbiting and sleeping around.
Exactly. It makes for a very entertaining show, but it absolutely is horrible for finding actual relationships or real love. So I think that's my first worst. Farmer Wants a Wife for first. It's wholesome. It actually produces real life couples. Love Island, all they care about is Instagram followers. That's the worst.
I think, so mine are Bachelor/Bachelorette. It just depends, like, as long as you are the one and not one of the 30, and is my first, and my worst is The Circle.
Yep.
Which one of us got it more right, and which ones did we miss? 8772, Radio U. We are doing first to worst, the topic today, reality dating shows to find love. These aren't your favorite to watch and least favorite to watch. These are, if you had to find love, which show would be the best and worst to go on? And on our Valentine's Day, of course, Allie's picks were
My first pick was for the first, which was Farmer Wants a Wife. And then for the worst, it was Love Island, which I have to admit, Love Island is my favorite to watch because I do like the drama, but it's absolutely the worst show to actually find any love on.
I went with The Bachelor / The Bachelorette to find love, but I'm talking about if you're the Bachelor or Bachelorette, if you're one of the contestants, it would not be the best.
No.
At least for me, I would fail. I would lose. I'm not going to beat out 30 other guys. Sorry. But then my worst is The Circle on Netflix. Which is basically like you could be real, you could be not. Nobody sees each other,
so
but it's not
potential
like,
for catfishing there.
Yeah, for sure. And people are not even on there to find love; they're on there to win or whatever. So to get high ratings. Let's see. Jamie says I like Love Is Blind because people are getting to know people based on personality, not looks. I also agree with Hudson about The Circle and Allie about Love Island. Listen, I feel like so she didn't pick a winner, but I feel like. The truth is, like, basically every dating show to actually find love is trash.
Pretty much, because all they care about is creating the drama. And so they're just, like, making it super hard for the people on the show to actually have a healthy, like, relationship with one another because they're inserting all of this, like, turmoil to try and get them to break up.
I mean, you think about it, it's like finding love at, like, summer camp or whatever when you're growing up. Like, there's somebody by the end of it that you think you're in love with when you're 15 and you're at summer camp, but, like... or whatever it is, but by the time it's over or by the time you get
it falls apart.
Yeah, that never lasts.
That's a good analogy.
Brian says Allie got it right. Circle has some success. He says this is his wife's pick. Don't come in here, Brian, defending The Circle. It's a dumb or your wife. Get out of here. Regina says I haven't seen any of the shows. But I hate the idea of the Bachelor Bachelorette shows. I'll go with Allie's picks because the Bachelor and Bachelorette have so little success with lasting couples. I'm telling you, Regina, that's not the show's fault. It's the people on the show. Yeah,
but that's the thing. I do think she's right. I think overall the format itself doesn't really lend itself to be something where you actually would be able to translate it to real life, you know?
Yeah. What about, you're right, because like I could go on The Bachelorette and or The Bachelor and I'm guarantee you I could find somebody that we would love each other after 30 or after how long that takes.
Yeah.
But afterwards, when we can't go on the lavish dates that they set up all the time, maybe that's right. That gal wouldn't love me anymore.
It's like, suddenly we're not going on these dates where like a country star is singing to us while we get to dance in a private little dinner theater.
There's no zip line anymore.
Right. There's no helicopters over the coastline. That's I mean, it's beautiful for TV, but it's not real.
I feel like it seems that you may have won. I feel like I knew that I wasn't going to get a lot of support for my Bachelor pick, even though I, in my heart, believe it's right.
I did think about The Bachelor just because it's one of the classic TV dating shows. Mm-hmm. But I think because of the lack of success on there, I had to go with Farmer Wants a Wife because it's just so wholesome. It makes me so happy when I watch it.
Now, I wouldn't feel right picking either of these shows, but I will throw these out there because they're the only ones I actually do watch. And they do have successful couples. And that is Love on the Spectrum and Down with Love.
Nice.
But that just it doesn't feel like that fits.
Yeah, it doesn't feel the same type of format to lump it in with Love Island.
Yeah, right. Now, Allie, we're at a desperate time of year now with no football. The NBA is about to go on its All-Star break, even if you liked NBA stuff. And hockey is even on break. They're playing international competition, like Canada versus Sweden was last night.
Yeah.
But that's for 2 weeks they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's your thing. But we're desperate. We need sports. So this is what we're reaching for. The baseball season starts in a couple months. And Bill Nye the Science Guy, for some reason, was on MLB Network's Hot Stove show. He was asked by host Matt Vasgersian who he thinks will win the World Series. You know who he said?
I do, because I saw this clip.
He said the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, Cleveland posted this clip right away on their socials.
He probably used a lot of analysis. I'm sure he's a baseball expert. He's the science guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He used science and test tubes to figure out who would win, and he says the Guardians.
Yeah. No, he is a big baseball fan, so I do believe that he, watches baseball and everything.
Is he a Guardians fan?
He's not. He actually has two teams that he cheers cheers for, one in the National League and one in the American League, which I frown on a little bit. It's like, come on, pick one team. But it's okay. So he cheers for the Mariners in the American and the Nationals in the National League.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What an interesting combo. So when he says the Guardians, he's speaking from, it's not from the heart.
Yeah.
It's from his very scientific mind.
Exactly. It's not a biased choice. He truly believes the Guardians can win it all, which is crazy because no one else does.
No, including me. I feel like they peaked last year.
Right. I don't even think I do. And I'm like one of the biggest Guardian fans ever. I love Cleveland baseball. I watch almost every game every season. And no one is really predicting that they're going to win. Some aren't even saying that they'll win the American Central this year, which they won last year pretty handedly. But they lost some good players. Andreas Jimenez, an all-star. Josh Naylor, great player. Amazing
Canadian,
stats.
right?
Yep, Canadian. Amazing stats last season. And so, you don't really have a lot of people that are stepping up to replace those guys other than young, unproven rookies. And we'll see what they do. But yeah, I feel like Cleveland is really unproven as far as if they'll actually be able to recapture some of that same fire they had last season.
Well, I also think you have to give Bill Nye, the science guy's MLB prediction an asterisk.
Okay.
Because he picked before he found out that the Red Sox signed Alex Bregman last night. World Series champion, all-star. He says he'll move to second base so Rafael Devers can keep playing third base. And all of a sudden, the Red Sox have a very formidable offense as long as these guys stay healthy, which Alex Bregman has a history of injuries. They're counting on Trevor Story a little bit. He has even more so a history of injuries. But I do believe Alex Bregman is a friend of Nolan Arenado, who is rumored to be traded possibly to the Red Sox and take over. I think he would have to switch positions too to first base.
I was going to say.
Either him or Rafael Devers, one of them would.
Yeah.
But either way, I think I can starting to see how the Red Sox, they already made some big acquisitions. So I feel like if he had to do it all over again, knowing what we know now, Bill Nye might change his pick to the Red Sox.
That'd be a pretty sick infield.
Yeah.
If you had Nolan Arenado to round it all out.
Yeah, in 2018, it really would. Now, I don't know. No, I'm hopeful for the Red Sox this year. I'm just nervous. Hopeful, but nervous.
I'm not a Red Sox fan, but I am hopeful for them as well.
I mean,
because I would love for them to absolutely beat and pummel the Yankees.
Yeah, if the Yankees can go 0-162, everyone will be happy. I am going to open up the RadioU hotline.
877-2-RADIO-U.
To ask what is the weirdest thing one of your neighbors has ever done. 877-2-RADIO-U. You can send those in. I feel like this is very weird, but I feel like there's also people out there right now that can top this.
Okay.
But the reason this comes up is in Australia, we have a woman who moved into a house, and when she moved in with her family, the neighbors at one point, shortly after they moved in, asked, hey, can we borrow your hose, your garden hose? I guess she has a garden hose and they don't.
Yeah.
And that's fine, right?
Sure.
Like, that's okay if they don't have a hose and they want to water something. The problem is that she came home one day to them not just borrowing the hose to shower in their driveway, like with soap and shampoo and everything.
Oh my goodness.
So they were really trying to save some water on some money on the water bill.
On their side, but yeah, they didn't care about their neighbor's water bill.
Straight up just not borrowing, taking advantage of this lady.
Literally.
To an extreme, like it would be crazy. Like you could take advantage of it by, watering your plants a lot or filling buckets up for whatever reason. Filling up your pool, that'd be a tough one. But to shower, like you could easily do that. They have a shower in their house. And instead they're out in the driveway showering. I'm assuming in their swimsuits. I'm wondering, like that's a weird thing to me.
I know. I hope they're not just out there, in their birthday suit getting clean.
Yeah. Or setting up a camp shower.
Oh,
hooking up the hose to it.
Yeah.
But like even washing your car, like every once in a while, I feel like you could definitely, that feels like it's taking advantage, but you could let it slide a time or two.
Right.
But they were straight up showering in their driveway.
Yeah, this I would immediately be like, all right, sorry, I meant you could use the hose, but this is ridiculous. You can't use it to take a shower.
And then the neighbor is going to play dumb. They're going to be like, but you said I could use, like, where do you draw the line?
Well, I take back what I said.
You can't use it at all. And then they just secretly use it when you weren't looking.
You could be getting worried about that. I guess you'd have to lock it up.
Yeah. But I know. So I have a weird one. I don't know if it's weirder than this, but it's pretty weird.
Okay.
But I want to hear anybody who wants to hop in on the RadioU hotline.
877-2-RADIO-U.
The weirdest encounter you've ever had with one of your neighbors. The weirdest behavior you've ever experienced with them. Dee says when her husband was a student at the University of Florida, they had some party boy neighbors. I guess that's not surprising. One night they knocked over the wooden fence between the two houses, and the cops came by and told them they had to fix it.
Yeah.
So they literally went out at like 3 a.m. and started scotch taping the fence back together. That sounds like Florida, all right. Regina said she had her brother-in-law would have parties, and his neighbor would come over uninvited and just start hanging out. So they had to start locking the fence.
Oh, no.
He just thought it was like an open house.
Oh, no.
I like what TJ said. This is amazing. Once my neighbor had a tree they wanted to take down that was quite large. The plan was to have their 3 small children, grandma, dad, and mom, hold it with a rope to guide it between the two houses. You can tell where this is going. He did say, I decided to move our car because I did not believe it was going to go well. It didn't. It fell on their house. There is a video somewhere that I recorded.
Oh my goodness, that's awful.
TJ, I'm sure I haven't seen your video, but I've seen this happen, and I believe it was in Florida, oddly enough, where a guy, I mean, it's a tall tree, straight up, and he chops it down. It falls. I love the sound of the guy. I've watched that video so many times. I go back to it sometimes, of this guy knocking over this tall tree directly onto his house. And by the way, if it didn't fall into his house, it would have fallen into a street into oncoming traffic.
Right. So, it's like, what are you doing?
Don't
leave that up to yourself.
Do tree removal on your own. Kim says, I feel like my neighbors could say that we allowed our kids to explode a dishwasher in our backyard.
Oh, what's the story behind that?
Okay, so this is my mom, actually. I wasn't there for the dishwasher thing, but like we lived out in the country, and so like we would just burn anything. We had a big yard. We loved to have fires, and so one of the time, this is after I moved out, but I think my siblings and some of their friends had an old dishwasher that needed to be disposed of. Instead of taking it to the dump or something like that, threw it in the fire, and I guess it exploded.
Oh no!
Well, I can't really top that.
Yeah.
I do have a story and this is the weird one that happened lately is we live across the street from like apartments, but they're all like ground level apartments.
Yeah.
Like a small apartment thing. And I guess somebody at those apartments decided they were moving out. They wanted to downsize and live like the van life or the RV life.
Oh.
But to get rid of all their stuff, which I'm baffled they had so much stuff in their small apartment.
Yeah.
They had yard sales across the street from us. Like every weekend from dawn till dusk for like 2 months. And then they would use our address because they never had an apartment. They didn't have an address that like could send people. So they would post about it online and use our address.
What?
And yeah, just sit out there all day long. And I'm like, how do you have all this time to sit out there?
Yeah.
Most yard sales are done by like 2:00, right?
Right, for sure.
And they did this on like a weird time of year. It wasn't like yard sale time of year.
Which is the summer.
Yeah, so I think they're gone now, but that was really weird for us.
Oh man, that sounds pretty insane.
Regina says, we were talking about one guy, his neighbor narrowly missed their house. It hit his own house. His neighbor pulled down a tree and it hit its own house. Regina says she had something similar happen. Her and her husband were trying to use a chainsaw to cut down one of their trees. The chainsaw got stuck in the tree, so they needed to call their brother with a truck to be able to like pull the tree down. And when they did pull the tree down, it narrowly avoided hitting the truck.
Oh no!
But if they didn't do that, the chainsaw, the way it was going, she said it actually would have hit their own house. So, and it didn't hit the truck, so it was all a happy ending.
Okay.
But the moral of the story now twice is no amateur tree removal.
Yeah.
Get professionals in
Yep.
on this. Allie, what was your weirdest neighbor story, though?
So I, in my last apartment complex, me and my roommate, who is now my sister-in-law, actually, we would put out cat food out by our door because there was like a cat that was just like an outdoor cat that was nearby the apartment. And so we put out cat food for him, and we just called him Mr. Kitty. And one day we got a note tucked into our door that was from a neighbor downstairs because we lived on the second level of this apartment, and everything was a breezeway, so it was all outside. All your doors were outside, and so in this letter, this person lets us know that they were walking to church earlier that day and saw that this cat had died, had been hit or something, and they also had been some of the people that would feed this cat too.
Okay.
And so we were like, oh no, the cat's dead. And then literally that night, we heard the cat again outside by our door waiting for food because we had taken the food in, thinking the cat is dead.
Right.
The cat was very much alive.
Okay.
And so I write a letter back to this other apartment and I stick it into their door saying, hey, the cat came back. He's alive. He seems to be doing well. So it must have been a different cat that you saw.
Yeah.
So this person writes us a letter back, like,
oh my gosh.
And so the where it starts to get weird is so I didn't write back after that point because I'm like, okay, the cat's alive, the story's over, blah blah blah, we're still feeding the cat. This person proceeds to continue to send us letters giving us updates on this cat and just random updates, and we're just like, why are you doing this? Never met this person face to face, didn't even know like their name or really anything. They would just address it with their like apartment number, and so it was just very odd where I was just like, why do they keep sending us these letters?
See, at first, after you said the cat was alive, I thought that the story was going to go, they wanted you to put your food in because they wanted to have the cat all for themselves.
No.
Nevertheless, it sounds like they were very obsessed with the cat.
They did like the cat a lot and wanted to give us all the updates on the cat.
Lindsay says she has children. One of her children is deaf. She has a hearing aid and cochlear implant, but still very hard for her to hear. So she has to yell really loud. One time, shortly after they moved into the house they were living in, the daughter's doing something she's not supposed to be doing. She's yelling very loudly at this daughter, trying to get her to stop. The neighbor comes over thinking something is wrong. Lindsay tries to explain, and the neighbor didn't believe her. So then she starts like really trying to overshare and like really like convince this woman. And apparently the neighbor avoids her and even called the cops on Lindsay for shooting off fireworks on the 4th of July.
Oh no.
So yeah, Lindsay, you got that. You're not, just to be clear, the neighbor's the weird one. You can shoot off fireworks on the 4th of July. We got one more from Nolan, and this ties back into the first one that we came up with here, which was an Australian woman who says that she let her neighbors borrow their hose, or her hose.
Yeah.
And then they started showering with it in their driveway.
Right.
Nolan says, I had a neighbor who always picked up the trash on our street, which is great, except he liked to run the hose over all of the trash and hang them out to dry. So literally paper, clothes, food, cigarettes, whatever, he'd hose it off, hang it up, let it dry, and then throw it away.
Why?
Why indeed? Some people want their garbage cans to be clean. I think is maybe what is going on here, which I think is crazy.
That's gross.
We are talking about what your guaranteed meal was or is. The meal that you just know you're having once every week, no matter what. Like the meal when you were growing up, your mom would make every week without fail, probably. And then, sometimes as an adult, you get into the guaranteed meal situation too.
Yeah.
So, Allie, you said yours was homemade, like truly homemade pizza.
Yeah, homemade pizza, homemade dough, homemade sauce. Like every part of it was from scratch. And I cherish that pizza so much. I can literally taste it in my mouth right now, but also I know I'll probably never ever have that again.
Yeah, that's too bad. My guaranteed meal was I feel like it was spaghetti and meatballs. Now we aren't Italian, and so it was not made from scratch, not the spaghetti part, but the meatballs were, and like part of it was my parents would, like, we lived out in the country, and one of the things we routinely did, we had a big deep freezer And so we routinely, sometimes we do it with pigs, but definitely do it with cows, is you'd split a side of beef with somebody.
Yep.
Like the cow would get slaughtered, and then you'd have a freezer full of beef, particularly ground beef. And so one of the ways that the ground beef was often used was for those meatballs.
Yep.
And so that was big. We had that a lot. We also heard from Alex, who says, my dad would make chili mac, literally pour milk can chili, macaroni and cheese, and sometimes he'd go crazy and chop up hot dogs and put them in there.
Nice.
We thought that was gourmet cooking. You know what? That doesn't sound halfway bad, though.
No, that sounds pretty decent.
Liz says spaghetti and salad because she does come from a huge Italian family.
Yep.
I almost feel, I'm sure the spaghetti that is like homemade and Italian, which I don't think I've ever had that.
I don't either.
Because if I'm thinking like Italian people or, like the real Italian food, I feel like they go bigger and better. Like spaghetti's the low end, the easy end. And they want to go like homemade lasagna or something like that.
Right. Oh, yeah. That'd be
for
good.
higher heights.
Yes.
But I guess if you're a family and you got to get food done real quick, spaghetti's the way to go.
Yep.
Let's see, 8772 RadioU. Let us know what your guaranteed meal was when you were growing up, the meal you knew your mom would make every week. We have Devin who says, my mom's homemade shepherd's pie. We had that every Thursday without fail. You like shepherd's pie?
I don't think it's bad. I don't really typically eat it that often, but if your mom is a good cook, I would imagine it'd be pretty good.
I think it depends what's in it.
That's true.
I like shepherd's pie a lot, but you know what I don't want in there is peas.
Really?
And I don't even hate peas. I just don't want them in a shepherd's pie.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel like with vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
I like sneaking them into things like that to hide them so you don't taste them.
Yeah.
But sometimes sneaking them in actually like ruins the thing more than it hides them.
See, I'm a big fan of like chicken pot pie, which is very similar.
Right.
And so I love to have the veggies in
I don't
there.
mind some veggies in there, but again, I think I could do without the peas.
I'm fine with the peas
I
in
pick
there.
some, like if we get the frozen ones, some of them I pick the peas out. I pick the peas out, even though I don't hate peas on their own necessarily. Like as far as vegetable goes, I don't think they're that egregious. I just think they ruin things.
I think the peas actually, like, that's the only scenario where I would eat peas.
Thanks for listening to The Hudson Show. Please don't forget to rate and review the podcast.